Let me start from the top. The meaning of democracy. To start with, democracy is not the best form of government. It is the only available form of government that we could use for the benefit of the majority. Winston Churchill, a very illustrious Prime Minister of Great Britain, said, democracy is the worst form of government, but it's all we have. The struggle for liberation that was waged vigilantly by the Southwest Africa People's Organization, commonly known as SWAPO, was in search of a democratic dispensation in Namibia, by which people were ruled by those whom they chose, by those whom they trusted, by those who carried their interest. For younger people, let me be vain to explain to you how, according to social theorists, the representative of form of government came into existence. They say, in the beginning of time, there was no government. There was no representative government. People were living in small communities, deriving their sustenance from a tree, an orange tree, maumi, planting their fields. Let's say, for argument's sake, there was one well from which they drew water. There were 20 people in the community. The well had more water during the rainy season than thereafter. They learned that human nature has it, that in the process of coexistence, as it were, certain people became cunning. They would go to the orange tree and pluck more oranges than they needed because they felt that the future was insecure. It's human nature. In the end, there were clever people who were taking all the oranges and began to sell the oranges to others. So the people came together and said, let's come together and say, we elect 3 people to live near the tree. So they elected 3 people, 3 families, and we must make sure that whoever comes to pluck the trees must pluck trees according to the needs of the family. In a row. Went well for a while. Eventually they discovered that these 3 were changing the rules. Yeah? They would pluck more oranges for themselves, so that those families who needed oranges would beg them for oranges. So that's how the form of representative government came into existence. I had an experience when I was a student in Germany. We were in a house, 400 people from all over the world, learning German. And one of us came to tell us that there was a broken phone in the neighborhood. You did not have to put in your money, and you had to just come there early to make your call. For 2 weeks, it worked very well. You spent 2 minutes on the phone and you gave way to the other. Eventually, we learned that there were a few people who were all the time. So, in the end, we were quarreling about who was making longer phone calls than the other. You know what happened in the end? One of us reported to the municipality there was a broken phone. So we all lost the benefit of making free calls. You follow? Human nature is like that. A philosopher by the name of Thomas Hobbes, one of the key person who helped us understand how government came into being. He said human beings are born cruel and nasty and brutal. bellum omnes para omnium. Each one is waging a war against all. And we're all like that. If you want to understand human nature in basic form, watch 7 children playing and you throw sweets at them. What will you see? War. Nobody told them about hating each other. Watch children at a school. If there's one child with better shoes and a better shirt, that child will become the leader of the group. True or false? Corruption is part of the DNA of the human being. That's why you need rules to regulate that. Democracy is all we have, unfortunately. If you can think of an alternative government, bring it to the table and we'll test it. But for now, from my perch, the democratic formula is the only one that works. But that means, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. I hope that helps with definition. Tribesmen, my brother, thank you so very much for your very eloquent intercession. The difficulty we have with the tribesman mentality is that in the end, we as Namibians, Africans generally, will excuse the faults of someone we know who's stealing. If that person is a member of our tribe, it's our thief. You defend your thief. We know he's a thief, but he's our thief. In other words, the only way Kavangos, I argue, can get out of this difficulty, this trap of moving nowhere very slowly, is to talk to one another eyeball to eyeball. Let's decide who we are, how we got here, what sustained us thus far, what strength do we have. When I use the terminology of voting cows, I derive that from current experiences with our democratic processes. Many of you may not know that in 1989, with the first democratic elections in Namibia, check this, there were about 7 political parties. The key ones were Southwest Africa People's Organization, SWAPO, and the Democratic Turunhale Alliance, DTA. You may not know, or you have forgotten, that SWAPO lost in the South. SWAPO lost in the Maheke. SWAPO lost in the Rongo. SWAPO lost in Kunene. SWAPO lost in Caprivi. What was left? What was left? Kavango and Kavango. Had it not been for the vote of Kavangos in 1989, SWAPO would have started as the opposition. But the Kavangos, who were brutalized, bruised, they have psychic scars and psychological memories from the apartheid government, decided to turn their backs against the DTA and onto SWAPO. In 1989, the first ever democratic elections in Namibia, check this, SWAPO got only 57% of the vote. Thanks to Kavango. What does that tell you? Today, Rundu is the fastest growing town in Namibia. You may not know that Rundu is second only to Bantu, the capital. So Rundu marks Sark. But people don't know this. Check this. When I was the head of NIPAM, it was very hurtful for me when we were conducting workshops in all towns. And I realized that most of the security guards who were guarding us were who? I was invited to address the Namibian Charcoal Association, oh Makara. Guess what? Most of the workers, Makara, from where? Go to House and Cake, Manjembere. Most of the workers are from where? What do you want me to feel? That Kavangos are only good to service others. They are not at the table, but they are by the table to facilitate the eating of others. This may sound tribalistic, but I don't care. Here is a story to make my point. Somewhere in America was a basketball team, and you may know the basketball team players or basketball players are very tall boys. True? What is the race of those boys in the main? LeBron James, Magic Johnson. What is their race? Black. Now they realized that the coach of these black boys throwing the ball in the net were an Italian coach by the name of Marco. There were more black boys than white boys. There were only 3 white boys. Remember the movie White Men Cannot Jump? At any rate, the black boys noticed that Marco, the Italian, was spending more time with the 3 white boys in the team. And the 3 white boys all had Italian names. So the black boys went to the coach one day and said, Mr. Marco, we realize that you spend more time with our friends who are Italian and not with us. Do you spend more time with them because they are Italian? And Marco scratches his forehead and says, ask the question again. So do you spend more time with them, Julio, Stefano, because they're Italian? Coach Marco says, I spend more time with them not because they are Italian. I spend more time with them because I am Italian. Be yourself and not be apologetic. It hurts, my friends, to see that Kavangos will go and listen to someone from outside, even if they've never heard of this person before. I can tell you, I lived in South Africa for a very long time. You would not have nonsense like Omashari. In our languages here, you don't start a word or a noun with O. It's Mashari. Some Portuguese comes here, he's excited about Kwanyama, and he named a place in your locality, Omashari. You may not know that I took this case to court. I took the Portuguese man to court. I lost the case. Why? I had no community support. It's still Omashari. It's still Sarasungu. 20 years, 30 years from now, your grandchild will not know what the original name was of Mashari. Because they'll all internalize the falsehood that it is Omashari. It's Sarasungu. Where is the Kavango voice? When you are being dismantled in front of your very eyes. It will take someone from outside to come and say, it is not Mashari, it's Mashari. There is a county town council. I had a meeting with the mayor before. No action. it will take someone from outside to come and change the name. What is wrong with you? And here is what is very deeply hurtful. There's a man who was breeding baboons, chimpanzees, the human-like animals. They are relatives. The government gave this person a license to breed not more than 10 baboons at a time and sell them. So the farmer realized that the baboons are actually semi-intelligent. They are halfway to human intelligence. And he realized that one of them could actually ride a bicycle or count, but could not reverse. So he trained one of the baboons to count. He had 10 baboons. He sold 5. How many were left? Okay. So he goes to the chief baboon and says, Chief baboon, please go and count your friends. The chief baboon goes and he comes back and the master says, how many baboons are there? 4. The master counts, he counts 5. He calls him in, go and count again. How many? And he realized that the counting baboon, because he was tasked with a particular responsibility, the chief baboon had forgotten that he was once a baboon. He no longer saw himself. That's a Kavango phenomenon. When you take a Kavango out of Kavango, they forget that they come from poverty. We celebrate ourselves the only Kavango, the best Kavango. Yeah, the first Kavango. And we keep others out so that we can eat alone. You see, my friends, another story of a man who had dogs, and he trained his dogs to sit obediently in a cage. He would feed them through the hole. And the dogs got used to eating there, sitting down like that, months on end. So the master one day decided to remove the cage. Yeah? Just took the little cage away. Guess what? The dogs did not know that they could go away because they were conditioned to sitting still. They still had the cage in their head until some hungry dog from outside came to steal their food and ran away. Only then did they realize that they too ran away. That's a Kavango phenomenon. We are our own worst enemies. How do we get out of this, youth member? Do not accept that there is a cage around you. Do not accept that you are a chief baboon who has forgotten that you were once a baboon. We all come from the same background. You see, other people meet together and they discuss where they want to go. Here, no. We have been wounded too much by apartheid. We have been wounded too much by colonialism. My friend, in the 70s, early 80s, this area called Kavango was the most militarized area in Namibia. You could hardly find a family in Namibia, in Kavango at the time, who did not have a member belonging to Kofut. Kofut was the most lucrative job. It was very attractive. Where are they now? They are more SWAPO than SWAP. We can say they are more Catholic than the Pope. The mindset means we need to unlock the way in which we think. Friends, we cannot be the extension of other people's opinions. Life begins with us, life continues with us, life will end with us. Let me share with you one of the most powerful moments Hitler had. You know about Adolf Hitler? The manner in which he moved the Germans to start killing the Jews was through speeches. One day he was invited to speak to the workers. They were very tired and hungry. Hitler was a true demagogue, a person who understood the use of language. He says to the organizers, please let them wait for 6 hours. They must be tired when I come. Because tired people listen better. They're anxious. So Hitler comes and he said to them, please don't put the stage, nothing. I want to be simple. So he comes. And this is real. He puts the little note on the table and he goes like this. Leadership, my friends, is about drama. He watches the crowd. He watches. Remember, they're hungry. There are no toilets around at the time. They want to go home. And Hitler says, fellow Germans, it's a sad time. Behind us comes Germany. In us waits Germany. In front of us marches Germany. But the problem is the Jew army. The result? Killing, slaughter the Jewish people. I have an obligation to tell these things to you because they matter. In 1994 in Rwanda, you heard about the Rwandese genocide. Yeah? Something happened. What happened in Rwanda prior to that is the neglect of a particular community called the Hutus. The French and Belgian administrations propped up the Tutsis, the tall ones with sharp noses. They told them, you are more handsome than the Tutsis. The Tutsis are too fat and dark. So they internalized the reality. Even if you were the darkest Tutsi, you thought you were lighter than the Hutu. Because the white men lied to you too long. So for many, many years before 1994, those who were inspectors, directors, executive directors were Tutsi. The Hutu, however, was the majority. You get it? Administrators Tutsi, they work as Hutu. Now, come 1990, elections entered the African terrain. They were democratic elections. And so 1991, elections happened in Rwanda. Who won? The Hutu. Who were the downtrodden? The voting cow. So the Hutu president in two countries, in Rwanda and Burundi. Now, Burundi and Rwanda have the same tribal makeup. They are Hutus and Tutsis. Those in Rwanda call themselves Banyarwanda. Those who are in Burundi call themselves Barundi, but they speak the same Kirundi, Kinyarwanda. Now, Paul Kagame, before he became president, I'll get to that in a moment. In 1994, May, something happened. The two Hutu presidents from Rwanda and Burundi attended an African Heads of State Summit in Tanzania. When the meeting ended, the president of Rwanda, who had more money and a private jet, said to his friend, a fellow Hutu from Burundi, why don't you go with me on my plane so that we can talk about our things as Hutus? You with me so far? So they get on the same plane. And that plane was shot down when it was landing in Kigali. Rwanda. So 2 presidents died on the plane. Then something happened. One radio announcer, who was Hutu, said something very, very simple. Oh, our president's dead. What did you expect? The cockroaches have struck again. It's time for us to stamp out the cockroaches. They have developed a language that the cockroach meant a Tutsi. And my friend, they started killing. You cannot believe the slaughter. Catholic priests, Catholic nuns killed people during church service because they were Hutu. They have bottled up too much anger and frustration. They killed husbands, killed their wives because the wife was Tutsi. A mother would drown her babies in the bathtub because the father was Tutsi. The point is, if you allow people to feel marginalized, excluded, minoritized for a long time, it's a matter of time before they regroup. People reach a threshold to say we cannot take it any longer. In American studies, we learn that change comes only when people say, I can't take this no more. Now, things are not bad enough in Kavango for people to say, no, we cannot go on. Because the system is very good at divide and rule. Divide and conquer. What can we do? My friends, all politics is local. The reason we have elections is because politics is local. Respect the local voice. The Romans of old would have told us, Vox populi, vox Dei. Vox populi, vox Dei.